My name's Chris Phillip.
My name is Paul Anderson.
My name is Mark Boyd.
Hello, my name is Derek Combs, and I listen to the Blue Army podcast.
My name is Matty Robson, and you're listening to the Blue Army podcast.
But no, I can't seem to. Oh dear. All right, no, this should be fine. All right, okay. I'm happy with the setup now. I've got everything sort of moving around. Everything should be pretty much fine. Once again, thank you both for joining me this evening, and I'll kick things off there. I'll get things going. I'm going to start things with a bit of an update about episode 100. So, yeah, we'll kick things off. Oh. How's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is, of course, episode 97, and I am absolutely buzzing to be joined by the two men I like to call the Cumbrian Brain Trust. That's right, I'm talking about Wills and Liam. Welcome back, lads. How are you doing?
Not bad at all.
Hey.
A lot better than last week.
Yeah, I've got my coffee, and we've won a game. You know, the hangover has literally lifted, not just for me, but for Carlisle United's run of form as well. And lads, just before I dive in, this is of course episode 97 of the Blue Army podcast, and that means we are fastly approaching episode 100, and I have been on the hunt trying to track down an attractive interview with somebody, but unfortunately things seem to be a bit difficult to confirm at the moment, and the person that I did have in mind is currently recovering from surgery, and that's all we'll say about that for now. So it's misty waters with that interview going forward. So I'm back on the market, scrambling around for another interview, and hopefully I'll get that in time for episode 100. But just in case, listeners, episode 100 just ends up being episode 100, well, we'll just have to make do. You know, I mean, like, people are busy.
We've got some plans.
Promotion time, you know. Yeah, it's one of those. We got some plans in motion, but you know, we'll just see how things go. But if episode 100 is just, you know, good old episode 100, and then maybe we'll let a few things out the bag from there. We'll see what happens going forward, lads. That was a bit of a poo start to the podcast, to be completely honest. A bit of a dud. We don't normally start things like that around here on the Blue Army podcast. We normally start things with a bit of a joke and a bit of a laugh, and that means it's time for one thing and one thing only, boys. It's time for the Blue Army podcast joke of the week. Is he having a laugh? I think he's trying to. It's the Blue Army podcast. You ready, boys?
Ready, yes.
Ready as ever be.
Yeah.
Here we go. Why aren't koalas qualified as bears?
Oh, I don't know. Why aren't koalas qualified as bears?
Because they don't have the right qualifications. That'll do.
Genuinely the highlight of my weekly section.
You never know what you're gonna get.
No, and like, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't too bad.
It's definitely been worse.
There's definitely been worse. Lads, let's move on with your segment, gentlemen, the way we like to kick off with some news. It's time for the League 2 roundup, where we get to
find out what's happening here. Find out what's happening there. Because it's the League 2 roundup with Liam and Will.
Hey.
Right, who's kicking things off this week, lads?
Shall I do it?
Start from the bottom.
Yeah, so I'm doing the bottom this week. So I mean, like, you know, we got our roundup off a few weeks ago to like a really good start with all kinds of like interesting shenanigans going on with Crawley and stuff.
And then it just went dead.
So I mean, you know, the last couple of weeks we're just keeping tabs on the relegation battle and on the promotion battle. So I've had a look at the bottom of the table. down that end. And I feel like it's now starting to become a bit of a 4-horse race. Gillingham are in 20th, but they've been on good form and pulling away. Just above them, you've got Newport, who've won 2 of the last 4, and Colchester, who prior to us being beaten, they were on a good unbeaten spell. Then you've got teams like Grimsby and Crewe, who seem to be mid-table. So you've got Harrogate in 21st, who are 3 points clear of the relegation places. Hartlepool are just 1 point clear, and then Crawley and Rochdale. And I think it's going to be 2 from those 4. And I'd be surprised if one of those 2 wasn't Rochdale. They're an absolutely diabolical form. Only 1 point from the last 6 games, only 5 wins all season. They weren't one of the teams that started the season right down there, but they've been just sliding down, and they're now 6 points adrift. Jim Bentley there in charge doesn't seem to be working, and just looking at what kind of like the Rochdale fans are saying at the moment, they don't seem to be giving themselves much chance of escaping. Above them, you've got our favourite crypto nerds, crypto creepies, Crawley. I'm sure. Crawleys. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few listeners who wouldn't be too disappointed to see Crawley go back down to non-league. They are 1 point behind Hartlepool, and they have a much better goal difference, and they do have 3 games in hand on them. I guess they must have had some postponements earlier in the season. So, they're on poor form. Not all doom and gloom for Crawley, but we know what their owners are like. So, we expect some kind of like strange moves from them or something. Maybe they'll sack their manager again. Who knows? Maybe they'll kind of bring in a free agent from like, I don't know, America or something. Who knows? But at the moment they're down there, and just ahead of them is Hartlepool under our old friend Keith Curl. They got a draw last time out and have just moved out of the relegation places. As I say, Crawley do have 3 games in hand on them, and just above them, Harrogate, who, that win they scored, that freak win they got against us, their only win in quite a while. Their only win from the last 6 at least. And they're 3 points clear, poor form, and they're. Other teams below them are worse, it seems, but they definitely have to watch out below them. And on Tuesday, Harrogate travel to Grimsby. Hartlepool play Newport. Newport, one of the teams I mentioned who are down there, but seem to be good enough to avoid it. Rochdale hosts Stockport. So Crawley don't play, so Hartlepool will have 4 games in hand on Crawley. So be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, if Hartlepool were to lose that, then they're definitely in deep shiz. But I think it'll definitely be Rochdale though.
Yeah.
I think Gillingham and everyone above, not safe, but I can't see them getting dragged into it.
I think Gillingham will definitely be safe.
Yeah, and the fact that they're on 20th after this great form makes me think that the teams above them should be fine too. I'm just looking at the form table, and Gillingham, there's quite a lot of green on their form. Like green, it's green for the win. So it's quite a lot of green on there. And you can kind of like just see, if you look at the table, it gets greener as you go up. But those 4 at the bottom, only 3 wins between the 4 of them out of the last 6. Whereas Gillingham have 4 wins in the last 6 just themselves. So there's a bit of a drop off in form as well below Gillingham.
Yeah.
Nice to see that things are staying interesting at the bottom of the league. But this season, us as Carlisle United fans don't necessarily have to concern ourselves with that. I mean, it was at this point last season that Paul Simpson came in and steered us to. I mean, where did we finish last? Was it like 16th or something? We ended up finishing.
I think it was lower because we kind of
18th. I think it was.
18th.
We did kind of finish the season on a little bit of poor form and kind of slid back down a bit, I think.
I remember getting beat by Bradford.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point we were thinking, could we finish in the top half? But no danger of that this
Very
season.
ambitious.
Yeah. Anyway, you've got stuff to talk about, Liam.
Yeah, and that all concerns the top half of the table this week. Very, very interesting, the going-ons, especially the very tippity top of the table. Leyton Orient did their usual. They got a win over Crawley. Like, I don't want to say this because we play them next week, but who can't get a win over Crawley? It was a 1-0 win for Leyton Orient. That's definitely going to come back to bite me saying that, but I'll keep it.
I'm trying to knock on some wood on that.
But anyways, and then Stevenage in second place were beat by Stockport County. Now, as Carlisle are obviously in third place in the automatic promotion places, I'm not so worried about Northampton, who also lost today. I think they're really going to drop off massively this season, and I think we're going to go into that third place, and I think the main contenders for that are going to be Stockport, who got a win today, and was it Mansfield? Mansfield as well.
Yeah.
Because they're on absolutely unstoppable form at the minute. Tranmere aren't having their best season, but Mansfield just pushed them aside extremely easily the way they did with us. They're on extremely good form. But yeah, elsewhere, I briefly mentioned Northampton got beat by Grimsby in the 91st minute. Real big blow for Northampton, and it just seems like things can't go right for them at the minute. But apart from that, Swindon beat Salford, another big boost for Carlisle. Salford, one of those teams in the playoffs, towards the top end of the playoffs. Bradford, who were sort of fighting for that playoff promotion place, being beat by Barra. Barra getting the first win in quite a while. And, I love that they beat Bradford. I just think you've got Bradford, who are this team that all you hear from their fans is that they're far too big for this league. And then they get beat by a team like Barra, who I think they only have a roof on two of their stands. Worst ground I've been to in quite some time, Barra. But I just think it's absolutely unreal that Barra have beat them at Bradford as well. But yeah, great day out for the Barra fans that went, all 5 of them. But yeah, fantastic to see.
It's okay. I don't think any of them listen to this.
Oh, and of course, Carlisle beat Colchester, but I'm sure you'll go on to speak about that.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, what a difference a week can make. And maybe last week when we were doing the podcast, things were starting to look a little bit tighter between us and the bottom of the playoffs and us and the automatic places. But at the moment, we seem to have achieved a little bit of a cushion, and things seem to be cruising in the right direction. And moving into Carlisle United related news, somebody that has cruised into a 1-year extension is 35-year-old Rolls-Royce defender Paul Huntington. I'm happy with this one, lads. I honestly feel like this is a player that with confidence is only going to get better. He's potentially the best centre-back at this level in his position in a 3-man defence, and you've got to be happy with this. There's also, just a caveat to this, gentlemen, the possibility of another year extension if Paul Huntington achieves another set number of caps next year. Liam, are you happy with this one, mate? 35 years of age. Can you see Paul playing until he's 37?
I could definitely see him playing another year, but I think best case scenario, we're in League One next season. Best case scenario, then we stay up. I'm not entirely sure that a 37-year-old Paul Huntington will quite make it at League One level, starting every week. But that, of course, saying that, maybe he doesn't need to start every week. He is absolutely brilliant, though. And I think 1-year contract extension is really deserved because he's been really, really good. I'm a little bit scared that maybe aging another year, going a league above, best case scenario, obviously, a year after that might be a little bit too much, but we'll have to see, because you've got players in this league. Like, you remember Kevin Ellison? He played till he was 40 something. Ian Henderson, who I think is playing for, he was at Salford for a little bit, wasn't he? I'm not sure
he's
where
at
he is now.
Rochdale now.
Well, he might not be in League Two for that much longer then. But you know what I mean. There are these odd players that play well into their late 30s, and look, he's played at a lot higher level. I think he's good enough, but it's just whether he can keep it up for another 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, as a defender as well. So, the slower you get as a defender, the more you'll get exploited.
Yeah.
But, 1 year, it's based on appearances. So, if he earns another extension next year, because we're in League One and he does well there as well, that might be like the year where he doesn't feature as much, but he'll have still earned his extension. And I'm sure like Simo wouldn't, if we use him next year as well, I'm sure Simo will be thinking like beyond that to have someone else, because he'll be 37.
I feel like as well he'll probably go into a sort of player coach role. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this, that he'll maybe go on into the coaching team at some point. But
yeah, I presume he still lives round here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the 1 year extension that's just been signed. It was triggered by Paul, signed by Paul, all on the players. So obviously, managers called Paul and the players called Paul. Sorry, it was all on the players, under the players' control in this circumstance. He decided. He triggered it. It was triggered by the amount of appearances that he made, and then he was the one that decided to sign that extension. So he's obviously happy here as well. And like I said earlier, I feel like he's a player that thrives on underconfidence, and I feel like if we can maybe use him better in a couple more set pieces, and he can contribute with 2, 3, 4, 5 goals a season, by the end of the season. I feel like he's the sort of guy that can really get us there. There's more that we can get out of Paul Huntington, even though he is 35 years old. I feel like there's still improvements that we can see from him. And it's a smart decision from everybody all round that Paul's going to be here for 1 more year. Opportunities are arising all over the world of football. And on this occasion, gentlemen, I'm talking about a former Carlisle United trainee, former Carlisle United goalkeeper. Don't worry, lads, it's not guess the player just yet. I'll tell you who it is. It's Mark Gillespie, and his opportunity to potentially make it's not his debut, but he's a fourth choice goalkeeper over at Newcastle. And because of a hell of a mistake by Nick Pope, who's now been suspended for the Carabao Cup final against Manchester United, and Martin Dubravka is cup tied because he's on loan from Manchester United, Mark could step in and play at Wembley this Sunday, or it could be Loris Karius. Will.
Yeah.
Mark.
I would love to see Mark. I would love to see Mark Gillespie. I think it'll probably be Karius though. He has played at this level before. Gillespie at Newcastle's one of those where I think he's kind of been taken there more to work on the coaching, and I was like still only in his early 30s, I guess, but I think Karius is considered to be ahead of Gillespie. It's not good news for Newcastle, though, either way. Feel like Man U rubbing their hands together. Marcus Rashford's salivating at the prospect of facing a 3rd or 4th choice keeper.
On his form at the moment. Yeah, Liam, do you agree with that? Do you think we're going to see Karius over Gillespie?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, to be honest, but I think you've got to take into account that a few years ago, Gillespie was playing in the Johnson's Paint Trophy final, and a few years ago, Loris Karius was playing in the Champions League final. So there is quite a difference in the experience there. He hasn't covered himself in glory, really, has he, in finals, Loris Karius?
No.
A good game. So
but he's played very little senior football in the last couple of years, same as Gillespie, to be fair. True. So they're both keepers who...
Gillespie was at Motherwell for a little bit, wasn't he? And he has actually played a few times for Newcastle in the Carabao Cup in the last few years. Although in the same breath, Karius has been over to Besiktas.
Yeah,
and I don't think he did particularly well.
No, I think he did awful.
Yeah, I think his confidence is just shot. But Have you seen Karius? He's absolutely ripped now. Like,
Yeah, but we wouldn't.
He
Yeah,
just-
so,
after that mistake, he's just gone to the gym and just
Genuinely.
just massively overcompensated.
But yeah, give me Gillespie.
Yeah, you've got him. He's the hometown
I'd
boy,
like to see
man.
that.
Come on,
I'd like
he's
to
a
see
Geordie.
Gillespie. Yeah, I'd like to see
Got to
Gillespie
give it to
playing
Gillespie. Come on, Eddie Howe's the manager over there. He's an English manager. He knows what it means. Like you say, like Karius has got a terrible record in finals. He's had a terrible run over at Shakhtar. He's done awful for the last sort of like 3 to 4 years of his career since that Champions League final. You know, you're going to give Mark the nods. And Mark's still got room to grow as well at the end of the day. And you could still see him ship off somewhere for 4 to 5 million, say if he has a good couple of appearances at Newcastle. But, you know, his career's still got opportunities to grow. And I'd go with Mark. I'd have to go with Mark. But that's the romantic in me, maybe, in football.
Well, put it this way. I'd much rather have Gillespie back at Carlisle than I would like to have Karius.
Yeah.
Yeah. He can bring his Charlie and his vodka.
Lads, a player or an ex-player, an ex-Carlisle United player that we touched on last week with Jared Bramthwaite, so we don't really need to discuss this necessarily, but it was in the headlines. There was an interview with Sean Dyche, who recently was interviewed and told said newspaper, I don't know which newspaper it was, I should have probably noted that down, that he has spoken to Jared Bramthwaite on the phone just to say hello, just to check in on him and to talk about how Jared's loan has been going in his eyes and has been quite quiet on Jared's future. But you would say with Everton in the position that they are in at the moment and how well Jared's doing and the sort of manager that Sean Dyche is, who does tend to actually favour British players and young British talent, Jared could very easily be seeing his way back into the Everton lineup next season. And we might have to wait for another year before there's any kind of potential cash-in for any kind of transfer fee. But gentlemen, we've talked that to death. But something we haven't done to death yet is one of our newest features here on the Blue Army podcast. It's time for the game that you play as a team. It's time for True Blue or Not a Blue. Diddly, 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 do. You ready, boys? Here we go.
Yeah. Born ready.
I got 3 of them this week.
Yeah.
3 of them this week for you.
What's
Here we go.
when are they from? Have you gone for the particular era?
We've gone from 90s and we've actually crept into the 2000s this time.
Okay.
But to be fair, like when you do get into the 2000s, it's like, yeah, they're easily going to get all of these. You know what I mean? Like you've got to find a nice middle ground. Right. The first one, gentlemen, is Tony Thorpe.
I just keep thinking of Fort Park, the amusement park. I've got nothing on this one.
Fake. Yeah, Not a Blue. What's the Not a Blue, do you think? Not a Blue.
You're going with Not a Blue, lads.
Yeah.
Tony Thorpe is Not a Blue. Well done, gentlemen.
Yes.
Well done, gentlemen. Right, here we go. True Blue or Not a Blue?
Yeah.
Simon Jeffels.
Jeffels.
Jeffels isn't a real name.
That's a sound. Yeah, I'm going to say. Instant reaction is, I'm sure if we'd had a player called Jeffels,
We'd have heard a lot about it, yeah.
I'd have remembered.
Gentlemen, Simon
God.
Jeffels, spelt Jeffels, was a Carlisle United player in 1992. A defender, in
early
fact.
90s.
Early 90s on this one, gentlemen. And,
Simon Jeffels, if you're listening,
Did he play
I
many
apologise.
games for us?
I don't know. It doesn't say that when I look at the squad. I don't know. He was a part of the squad. Right. Ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
The final one this week, gentlemen. True Blue or Not a Blue? Tony Hemmings.
Yeah, he I think so. It rings a bell.
We'll go True Blue.
Yeah, True Blue.
We're going with True Blue for Tony Hemmings. And Tony Hemmings was a Blue. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
Nice.
a True Blue. He was a Blue in 2001. He was a midfielder In fact, in the 2000-2001 season at Carlisle United. Gentlemen, thank you very much for playing True Blue or Not a Blue. Still can't get that perfect game.
No, not yet.
Still can't get that perfect
we
game.
will.
Yeah,
we will.
Get it soon. You'll get it soon. And you can join us next week here on True Blue or Not a Blue. Diddly diddly do. Right, gentlemen, let's dive into the match report. And as we always do here on the match report, before we kick things off properly, I'll give you the Carlisle United starting lineup for the game, which featured Hoyley in goals, the return of Ellis, Morgan Feeney, Huntington, Mellish and Armour across the back line, with Moxon, Guy and Alfie McCalmont making his first start for the Cumbrians in the midfield, with Patrick and Garner being paired up front together. And I believe that was is that the second time Garner and Patrick have started a game together for Carlisle United? We were told.
I think
they started against Barrow, didn't they?
Yeah. It's mostly been Dennis and Gordon as one partnership and Patrick and Garner as another one. So I don't know if Simo's kind of maybe thinking that he wants them to develop that understanding by frequently pairing them with the same person. But yeah, we have had Patrick and Garner start before.
Yeah. And lads, we were told there was going to be changes to the Carlisle United starting lineup. Liam, did any of these particularly shock you? Did you think like Jack Ellis coming back was a bit of a surprise?
Well, it was a surprise, but that's just because I didn't know he was fit.
I think Simpson's smart like that, isn't he? He doesn't like to let that thing go until after the game,
It was weird seeing Joel Senior dropped from the bench again, though. It seems like he either starts or isn't in the squad entirely. It's like Simo only plays him when he has to play him, which isn't great because I quite like Joel Senior. But Jack Ellis, man, what a player he is! He's such a good young player. I'm glad he's back. I honestly, until the lineup came out, I didn't know he was fit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it, Wills?
Yeah, expecting to see Senior there again.
Yeah, would you say it's a bit of a thing with Senior, or is it just a case of, he's been out for such a long time, nearly a year without football, you just got to look after him a little bit more?
Well, with him not being in the squad, because we discussed this before, and I think it's just that Simo doesn't feel the need to have a backup right back on the squad, maybe because Whelan can be put in there, because it's you've got players on the bench who can replace one of two or three different players. If you've got a right back on the bench, if you've got Senior on the bench, there's only one position he can come in on. So, maybe that's the reason why, because you got Whelan there who, even though I don't really fancy Whelan at right back, I would much rather see Senior or Barkley there. You have got that player on the bench who can come in, in like about three positions Whelan could come in on. So, come on.
Yeah, and obviously reuniting Garner and Patrick up front. Will, is that your favourite strike partnership, or have you found your favourite strike partnership yet?
No, I think
what do you like the combination of?
Well, since we haven't seen much of Dennis and Patrick together, but I quite like Dennis and Gordon.
Yeah.
So I think that shades it for me, but it's good to have these options because I really do like Garner and Patrick, and I thought Patrick was excellent on Saturday. So,
Liam, did you say Dennis and Gordon for you as well?
Yeah, I think my ideal partnership would be Dennis and Patrick. But if it's either Dennis and Patrick if it's either Dennis and Gordon or Garner and Patrick, you've got to go with the one that's scored more goals than anyone else in this league. And say Dennis, haven't you?
Yeah. And the other man who was a part of the changes on the day was Alfie McCalmont, and he got things started really well for the Cumbrians. I believe it was in the 4th minute of the game. Mm-hmm. There was a throw-in down the line from Jack Armour, which was stabbed away by the fullback. Paul Huntington hoovered it up into the air. It was headed forward by Owen Moxon, and the defender just sort of fluffed the header. I think he was intended it to go back to the goalkeeper, but not enough power at all. And Alfie had a bit of work to do, and it was a nice finish curled round the goalkeeper in to the bottom corner, nicely sort of rolled in to the bottom corner. Will, you were just behind the goal. You would have had a really nice view of when Alfie had his chance to break forward. Did you think the opportunity was as straightforward as it looks here in the highlights, or was he getting closed down quite quickly there and had a lot to do?
No, I mean, you know, there's always work still to do when you're through on goal, but it was one of those where as soon as he pounced on that ball, we fully expected a goal. Didn't realize initially it was McCalmont, and you know, haven't seen him shoot before, so fortunately kind of like finished it nicely. If it had been someone like Dennis or Gordon or Patrick or Garner, then you know, you'd have, as soon as you saw the goals coming, and yeah, just kind of almost started celebrating before it went in. But yeah, it was one of them.
I mean, it's nice to see Carlisle get a bit of luck, and Liam, John Mellish didn't get much luck just a couple of minutes later. You would have had a much better view of this one. A crunching tackle starts everything from Mellish in the midfield when Patrick feeds the ball into Garner. It's a nice 1-2, and then Patrick is in the middle, and there's Mellish with, I mean, just loads of time, and it bobbles, doesn't it? I mean, if you watch it, it bobbles, and it's cruel.
You can't blame the bobble for that.
Well, Liam, you take it from here, mate. I mean, you had a much better view than I did.
You definitely can't blame the bobble for that. I think it's just John Mellish is extremely left-footed when it comes to it. But you expect anyone that is a professional footballer to score that, and I absolutely love Mellish, but he missed one against Mansfield, and he missed one here as well. Two very clear-cut opportunities. I actually think it takes more effort to get that off target than to score it, because I genuinely, put me in that position, I don't think I could get it to go that wide of the keeper, to curl it out like that. Like, that takes real skill to do, and he's done it completely by accident. But yeah, I think it's just one of the moments. Every player has them where you miss a good chance or something like that. Yeah. And he is a centre back at the end of the day, so we shouldn't really be criticising him too much on missing a striker's opportunity. But it was
attacking centre back. Don't forget your own pattern.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, attacking centre back. Yeah,
yeah,
best in the world.
Gets stuck in two minds though.
Yeah,
and it's just one of those things. If you know, it's an easy chance, but if you fluff it, then it goes wide. It just seemed to like take his time to decide what to do with it, and then kind of like it had already gone past him, and he could only just kind of like prod it wide. But you could see the look on his face afterwards.
He was absolutely gutted, wasn't he? I think as well, people will forget because it didn't go in, but that is absolutely unreal build-up play to make that chance. Like, they've been criticised in the last few weeks for not making chances that could turn into goals. That was unreal sort of pass and play that led up to that Mellish chance. And I think if that had gone in, people would be raving about it as like goal of the season or something like that, because some of the passes around the centre backs were, top notch. And I think if we're creating those chances a lot more regularly, we'll be in a very, very good position.
Well, Colchester seemed a bit out of sorts on the day. There was a huge build-up about them being the informed team in the division, and you could see when the full-time whistle went that Carlisle United, regardless of Colchester's league position, were taking their form incredibly seriously and really infatuously celebrated the victory in front of the Brunton Park faithful. Lads,
yeah.
What does this mean in terms of us and our league position now? How are you feeling in terms of that 3-point gap now between us and Northampton, and that 2-point gap between us and Stevenage?
Well, I know it was an absolutely vital win that we had to get with the form that we're on, and we've mentioned Mansfield and Stockport, really catching up now. In the fight for the automatic promotion places. So it's starting to get tight again. So if we'd not won, we'd would really be kind of like in danger of slipping out. But we've got to win. We've maintained a cushion. We've got all these teams behind us have games in hand on us. Well, a game in hand on us, and then I don't know, with Stevenage above us, we're only 2 points behind. I don't know if Liam wants to kind of cover whether we can kind of go on better, whether Stevenage will fall away.
No, I don't think they will. I'm not really worried about the 3-point gap to Northampton. I'm a lot more worried about the 3-point gap to Mansfield Town, because they're, as I said before, I think they're the ones we need to be worried about. And it's only 4 points to Stockport County as well.
Yeah.
We've got a better goal difference than Mansfield, so even if they win that game in hand on us, they'll still be below us on goal difference. But they're the ones that scare me more than Northampton.
Yeah. They've had some spells of poor form earlier in the season, so I guess we just have to hope that they hit one again. I mean, not we just have to hope. We can hold them off. We can keep winning, but they are kind of gaining on us. So it'd be nice if they could hit a bit of another run of poor form. Like I saw like Mansfield fans talking about whether Clough should get the sack earlier in the season. So okay. Capable of.
It's just that debate as to whether they're in a really good run of form now or they were on a really bad run of form at the start of the season. I want to know what is the normality that we can expect and which is the sort of abnormality sort of thing. I'd love to see them go back to what they were, but I've got a feeling that was just a bad start and this is the real Mansfield that we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean the number of games left in the season now. Yeah. Any run of form that might be the run of form that you end the season on. So
yeah,
it's just who's the better team now.
It's a really important.
It's been us.
It's us. It's going to be us. It's a really important 3 points for Carlisle, and it's that time, gentlemen, where we would give our Foxes feature man of the match. And like I said, Colchester were quite out of sorts. There was flashes of good stuff from the Cumbrians, but not necessarily the most dazzling of displays. But for me, my Foxes feature man of the match has to be Alfie McAlmont. The goal, and also it just sounded like on the radio, that's right, I had to listen to it on the radio, that he was the main spark for Carlisle United on the day. So I'm going for Alfie McAlmont. Liam?
Yeah, I'm going the same. I think even without the goal, he would still probably be the man of the match in a 0-0 draw. He just everything at the same time seemed to come through him, and I think it'd be very, very difficult to sort of drop Jordan Gibson when he comes back in, but yeah, give it to Alfie McAlmont. First man of the match. I hope he starts again next week.
Yeah, I think we might see him again next week. Wills, who's your Foxes feature man of the match?
It was either going to be Patrick or McAlmont, and I'm going to give it to McAlmont. Like we say, even besides the goal, I thought he was really, lively in midfield, composed, and just had a really good game. Thought Thomas Holy had a really good game as well. I don't know if you want to kind of mention him, but not enough to be man of the match. But
can I dispute that?
Go on.
It's very, very easy for a goalkeeper to have a good game when you've got no shots on target against you. I think it's very easy. And
but it was catching, the crosses that they put in. There was one. It was actually a really good cross from Colchester. I think it was probably their best chance, even though it doesn't result in a shot on target, because Holy had to kind of jump at full stretch to catch it. So, like, if Holy has to jump at full stretch, then
I know the one you're on about.
And Akinde was lurking just behind to tap it in. Yeah,
I do know the one you're on about, but I think if he's a yard back, he doesn't have to stretch for that, which is where he probably should have been.
If he's a yard back, Akinde gets the shot.
No, maybe. But I mean, he didn't have to stretch the way he stretched to do that. I think if he'd have been slightly positioned just a little bit further back, I don't think he needs to stretch as much for that.
Yeah, I think he's a big part of preventing shots on target because of the amount of balls that he claims in his area.
I don't know though, because I think he's on far. He's too on his line for me to be a top keeper. Like, think back to Mark Howard, because there's a lot recently where I've thought that he needs to be coming for them and he doesn't. That I know for a fact Mark Howard would have done. He's such a big guy. I think he needs to be doing it a lot more.
Good to see him do it a lot more, maybe then.
Yeah. Anyways, this is your man of the match. Apologies.
Yeah. Howard's not my man of the match, though, McCallum.
Oh, no, yeah.
We've all agreed. It's like, it's very rare, but we've all agreed on the Foxes feature, man of the match. It's Alfie McCalmont.
There's never been this much debate on a one where we've all agreed on the same player.
Yeah. Gentlemen, no one was right last week when we did the predictions for the weekend results, and this time we've all got a fair stab at it. It's Carlisle United versus Crawley. We've already mentioned, or you guys already mentioned in the League 2 roundup, how poorly Crawley have been doing and the fact that they might be circling the drain. Hopefully, it's time for Carlisle to put a bit of a run together. So I'm going to say 2-0 to Carlisle. That's how I'm going to go. So I'm going to write 2-0 next to my initial. Liam, how are you going to score it?
I'd write that down again. I'm going to do the same. 2-0. Just improve on this week's result. If Mellish, just do the same, but get Mellish to finish his chances. 2-0.
Yeah. Wills, and how are you going to rate it?
I think you two are being too pessimistic. I'm going to go 3-0 to the Cumbrains.
Oh!
Yeah.
Excellent callback.
I
really hope the fans down there reference it. Yeah, I would.
Would you expect to see Alfie stay in the team?
Yeah, I think Alfie should start.
Yeah, I think Alfie will start. I think
it'll probably be Dennis and Gordon up front, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be unchanged behind the front two.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to guess the lineup a little bit. And, what a great segue into the final segment of the podcast. That's right. It's time for guessing the player. It's time for guessing the player. The end of the podcast, gentlemen. So I've had to change the song a little bit, but it just says guessing the player a lot over and over again now. It's still a banging tune, lads. It's 5-0 to Wills. Just in case it's your first time listening to the podcast, the way we do guessing the player and the way we score guessing the player is that Liam and Wills go head to head to guess a mystery former Carlisle United player, and if they get it on clue number 1, they get 3 points. If they get it on clue number 2, they get 2 points, and if you get it on clue number 3, they're only going to get 1 point. Lads, I'm not sure what's going to happen if neither of you get it. I'm not sure if there's going to be a rollover or.
So to the people at home, I haven't lost 5 in a row. I've only lost 2. So
I helped clarify. Yeah, right. I thought I helped clarify anyway. But there you go. You helped get over the line at the very least. But lads, this is probably the most difficult one yet. But don't worry, it's in your age range, Liam. So it's there or thereabouts. So you should be absolutely fine. It's time, gentlemen, for guessing the player. The first clue. Oh, it's Liam. It's your turn to guess first this week, isn't it?
Liam's, yeah.
It is. It's Liam's turn to guess first this week. It's the first clue this week, gentlemen, is this player started his career at Manchester City.
Kelvin Atuhu.
Oh! Has he done it?
Yes! And just like that, you can claw things back from the edge of defeat. It's 5-3 as things stand. Does Liam get his first Grand Slam victory? Straight in off the tee. The other clues were going to
now.
Just for the listeners out there, I did show both gentlemen the piece of paper that had Kelvin Atuhu's name written on it as soon as Liam guessed it. The other clues were going to be this player is a midfielder with 1 Premier League goal to his name, and the last one was going to be this player retired at Carlisle United. Congratulations, Liam, you've smashed this one out of the park. Will,
I loved Kelvin Atuhu. I loved him.
Yeah, right.
Calvin, big Calvin.
Oh man, I love this game. I love this game. It's a great game, and lads, it's a great way to end the show. And congratulations, Liam. You've managed to get things a bit closer. I mean, next week you've got the opportunity to actually take the lead potentially.
Oh,
You know, just
I'll
like
be
that.
guessing first.
You will be guessing first. You will be guessing first. But just like that, the opportunity will arise. And gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you both here on the Blue Army podcast. And there isn't really anything else left for us to do apart from saying bye for now.
Bye.